Welcome. I'm Dr. Lisa Toppin, and you are joining me for another episode of Blazing Your Path. I am delighted to present to you today Joy Meserve, founder of Leading with Joy. Joy, welcome.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy you're here. And first of all, I love the name of your company. Like, I don't know, your parents they did you a solid with the naming of Joy because, now you're leading with joy and you're
Yeah,
helping others lead with joy. So I want to get into all of that because this is a topic of particular passion for me. But first I want us to just learn about you because what we do on Blazing Your Path is we highlight the stories and the experiences of women, really with the intention to inform other women who might be interested in blazing a similar path. So we share our stories so that we can support and help others coming behind us to do similar and great things. So
I love it.
let's talk about Joy Meserve. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I spent the majority of my career at one company before starting this one. So I was very young when I started at a startup, and I think it's a beautiful thing to be young and in a startup because we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And that kind of innocence and naivety almost is empowering, where you're like, well, we're just going to do this thing. We're just going to build a company. We're just going to make this, how we want it. And you do. And you learn as you go, and there's no fear there. So I was the third employee hired on at a company called ID Tech. We deliver summer technology education programs to kids. Actually, it's year round now, online and in person, and at universities around the country. And it was such a wonderful journey. And I spent 22 years at the company, growing up there within its walls. And one of the things that was afforded to me by my boss, the CEO, was autonomy.
Mm.
And you take this. One of the first things I asked him on like first day on the job, I said, okay, so what do you have in terms of like the operating manual, like to give our summer staff, to tell them how to run these programs? And he said, that's your first assignment. And that was April, and our camp started in June.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 2 months to pull something together, but we did it. It was a very thick binder I had by the end, and full of helpful information, of course. And that evolved year after year. And I was able to hire on people that I would love to work with, and hired fantastic people. Just given that ownership and autonomy
Mm-hmm.
was everything. And it produced that feeling of intrinsic motivation. And I found that feeling was everything.
Yeah.
And so I started to look around the organization and like, how can I give this same gift
Mm-hmm.
to other people? And being that it was modeled for me, it was just so natural.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm now, especially at a startup where we all wear many hats, right? I'm going to give you this project, and let's start playing to people's strengths. I noticed, you're really good at this. Is this something you want to take on? Is this something you want to do? And when you play to people's inherent natural strengths,
Mm-hmm.
they become in the flow. And that is how I define joy. When
Oh.
people are fulfilled,
Mm-hmm.
but challenged, right? They still have to be challenged because we need to be working toward mastery of something.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
well, I listen, you said so many things I can hardly contain myself to want to get to them. But one of my favorite things is talking about strengths and sort of the way you're describing that in terms of needing to be challenged. We get to fulfillment through actually accomplishing something.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
always saying that to friends and colleagues, anybody who listen to me, listen, self-esteem comes from what you do.
Yes.
You can't be feeling great about yourself and you don't accomplish anything, in
Right.
my humble opinion.
Yes.
So I love the way you've described that, and I love this idea of autonomy being the catalyst really for
Mhm.
um for all of the things that you get to go do and how you become really.
Yeah.
So I love that. Now I didn't, we didn't talk about this before, but I just want you to know that my kids attended some summer programs at ID Tech. So
Did
I
they?
experienced you. Yes, we did do some
Excellent.
ID Tech stuff for sure. And so anyway, all right. So coming back now, so
Yes.
you sort of you've built this career at
Hmm.
ID Tech, and you've learned so much. You got the manual going, and you're now empowering these young people
Hmm.
who are educating great kids over the summer.
Yes.
I'm saying that because my kids were in there. And you built this thing, and then you hit that 22-year mark.
Hmm.
What inspires you to leave?
Yeah.
What was the change, and what inspired you to start this company, Leading with Joy?
It's such a good question. I think that we all went through something really powerful during the pandemic. I don't know what we're going to call that someday, but the great reflection, and understanding, what was most important in life, right? It was like, let's think about this for a minute. And those were really challenging years for ID Tech. There was not one university that would host us in the summer of 2020, rightly so. And the next summer, I think 7 or 8 said, "Hey, come on in." And we were like, the water's still not warm. So we're gonna we're, we're gonna stay away for 2 summers. And instead we pivoted to online programs, which was like starting a new company again and creating these new things. And so they were challenging years. We were kind of all on what I would just say to my people, we're all on this sort of battlefield together, and I couldn't be on this battlefield with better people. I'm so glad to have you all fighting by my side. And it really was the people that kept me there 22 years. It was the opportunity for advancement. It was the fact that we were really iterative and we were constantly trying to improve our programs. It was because I was able to grow people within that organization, and that fulfillment of seeing people on a path to growth was huge for me.
Yeah.
And I loved training. I loved talking to people. I loved advising and counseling and partnering with folks. Um, in addition to, like, I can operate with, you know, probably the best of them, right? Just, financial and accounting and client service and compliance. And it was very logistically heavy as a job. Um, and when I think we finally went back in person, I took a vacation to Hawaii. And Hawaii is a place that speaks to me. It's a magical place. And there was a lot of reflection there with, what am I going to do with the rest of my life?
Yeah.
I'm in my mid 40s, and, is this going to be a one and done career? Is this where I retire? Am I going to be here another 20 years? And I sort of looked around too, and I said, you know what? Right now, I have really good people I could pull up, and they can handle this job. I've
Mhm.
literally trained people into the position to take over for me, and I feel comfortable letting go.
Mhm.
And so that was a signal. Not only that, is then we went into a round of layoffs,
Mhm.
and I was asked to cut 1 million in payroll. And I said, well, put me on that list,
Mhm.
because if you don't, then there's going to be another few people that
Mhm.
need to go in place of me, and it's not going to serve the team well. It's not going to serve the company well. And you have these talented folks that can step into my shoes, and they've got this. And I was confident that ID Tech was going to last another 100 years by me leaving at this point. So that was it. And that was really it. And I reflected on, what do I love most? And it was the people. It was
Mm.
the people and empowering the people.
Yeah.
So that's why I started Leading with Joy, is to help and teach other companies, how do you make a culture that's award winning? How do you teach people to manage?
Yeah.
How do you teach people, like, what it looks like to find value others and to find their own sense of contribution within a company.
Yeah, no, that's so good and so thoughtful. Just in terms of how you landed that, and I'm always saying like the universe just sort of works it out so that those kinds of things come together when they do because they're supposed to, right? And so
Right.
so you, and really it sounds like you kind of found what it was that you were, I'm going to say, next in line passionate about. Like you had discovered
Hmm.
you could do all the compliance and
Yeah.
get all that done, but that didn't necessarily fill your soul. But it sounds like this space of teaching others to lead and to empower others is really where it happens for you.
Right.
Is that an accurate?
That's where my flow is. My flow is in creating the content. My flow is in delivering the content. My flow is in helping people and seeing them grow and seeing them change. That's where I find the most fulfillment.
Yeah.
And so that is, what I spend some time thinking about. And, I can also help companies and be a thought partner to people who want to grow and scale because I did that for many years. But I think that is my true passion and my true calling. And so that's what I'm attempting to do. Now, it has its challenges, of course.
Well, and as it should, as we've talked about, you got to have some challenge to have fulfillment. So we
Right.
welcome all of that. We welcome all of that. But you said something that I thought was interesting in terms um, of helping companies figure out how to create a culture.
Hmm.
And your focus is on managers. Why managers when you're
Yeah.
talking about culture? What's the marriage there?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all heard the quotes that people leave. They don't leave good companies, they leave bad managers. So that's part of it. But what a manager is even if they don't have the qualities of a fantastic leader, they are a leader. There could be a bad leader, they could be a good leader, but whenever a manager has direct reports, those direct reports are looking to them to be their voice, to be their advocate, but also to receive back transparency, communication, what's going on with the company, to understand the big picture. And also, they're looking for a partner, somebody who believes in them and values them and is going to give them ownership and autonomy over certain areas, and I think once you have those things, and also when you train managers to how to deliver feedback appropriately, that in itself is extremely powerful, because if someone is hearing all the time, this is what I loved that you just did, then they're going to be doing that behavior over and over again, right? Not only that, they're
Right.
going to feel valued, respected, seen, heard, and you're modeling for them what they need to do. They're going to start going and appreciating their peers and giving gratitude to their superiors. And it just kind of makes the whole world go around, right? It's love.
Yeah.
So if you can spread love that way inside a company, you can really transform a culture. And what I want to make clear, though, here is that I'm not talking about not delivering the difficult feedback. That's happening too, right?
Oh, of
But
course.
but in a non-threatening, non-triggering, fearless way where people can just speak objective truths.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We acknowledge it in other spaces, and for whatever reason, we've had a difficult time acknowledging it in management space. Let me give you this analogy. This is what I mean. If you have a piece of lettuce on your tooth, and I tell you,
Hmm.
Joy, you got a piece of it's right here. I tell you that you got the lettuce on your tooth. You look at me and say, see, I know you're a real friend because
Yeah.
only real friends tell you the truth. Other people who don't
Hmm.
care so much about you let you walk around with the lettuce on your tooth, right? And so, right? I mean, we all had that moment when Barack and Michelle were doing an interview, and he was like, "Wait a minute, stop the camera, hold it. She's got some lipstick on her tooth." Right? We were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, oh." So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, it might have been just me, but I
Oh,
said,
no,
"Oh,"
absolutely. Yes.
you know,
I mean,
I hope my my husband stops the camera to get the lipstick off. I don't know. But at any rate, so that I say all that to say that's real love, right? That when
Hmm.
you tell somebody the truth when it isn't that great.
Yes,
That is
exactly.
really what you're talking about. And
Exactly.
so that feedback has to happen, and it's important, and it's so good that you're teaching people how to do it so that it's not
Mhm.
so scary. Uh,
Yeah, and
yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say it's not easy for everybody. You know, if you grew up in a household like mine, which was very much like we try to keep things very copacetic all the time, and, you know, it's that whole, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, but taken in the wrong vein of, like, we're just gonna be quiet
Right,
and not mention things that are bothering us or irritating us, and instead sort of, like, filter that through someone else where you're going to gossip and you're going to judge, and you know, and so you kind of ended up not wanting to, you know, participate in that.
yeah,
And that really, for me, was such a growth when I figured out there were simple tools and ways to deliver feedback that were, you know, I had one client say to me, who was having trouble delivering feedback, like, I just don't want them to get defensive. I don't want them to feel attacked.
mhm.
If you're not going in to attack them, they're not going to feel that way.
Right,
If you're going in just speaking about simple truths and behaviors and what you've seen and observed them say or do, there's no arguing with that.
right,
And
right.
like you said, it's love.
Right. Right. No, 100%. And what I love that you brought up that whole idea of if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything. I really think that is really embedded in American culture. So
Mhm.
that it is widely understood that across industries, across spaces and places, we don't address things with each other. We
Mhm.
hold that.
Yeah,
And if we did a little bit more talking, we might be doing a little bit better. But that's
absolutely.
another podcast for another day. I won't
Okay.
take that on. Okay, so now, so tell us about leading with joy.
Mhm.
What are you offering? How does it show up? And tell us what that experience is all about.
Yeah. Well, what I love to do is go into companies and provide, you know, a very simple training program followed with building blocks of accountability where I'm going to leave them with the keys to operate the car, right? So they're going to be able to do this on their own once I'm gone. And I think that that's something that not a lot of training programs provide. I've had some in the past where it's like they'll leave you with a flip chart,
Yep.
you know, and there's, you know, 10 pages to it and lots of sub bullets, and you know, it's not useful, it's not practical.
Right.
But what I teach are really simple methodologies that are going to stick. They're going to resonate, and you're going to be able to retain them and then learn how to practice them and then keep practicing them. Um, and the other thing is that I do executive coaching. My coaching style is a little bit different, I will say. So if I think of myself as the coach for an athlete,
Mm, okay.
I'm going to talk to you about proper form,
Yep.
right? We're
Yep.
going to talk to you about the best ways and simple tools and ways that you can improve your game. And it's going to be a conversation. We're going to dig into what you want to get out of it, what you want to do, what are you struggling with, where are your challenges at the moment. And then I'm also going to be probably a little bit more vulnerable with you because you're going to get me. One thing that I value highly is authenticity. So you're going to get the full joy. I'm going to tell you stories about my life,
Yeah.
you know, and then I want to hear stories from your life where we kind of dig in and see what's behind that.
I love that. You get the full joy. That's so good. Um, but I also like what you said in terms of coaching, because I think this is a way in which there probably is a little, let's say, confusion, maybe dissonance in the industry broadly. Because when we think of coaches, we think of athletic coaches, and athletic coaches are not asking you questions to help you figure out what you should go do, much like a therapist would do. Athletic
Mhm.
coaches are saying, listen, I need you to bring the ball up the court faster, and I need you to pass it off to so and so, and so and
That's
so. I
right.
need you to cut through the middle and dunk it, right, or whatever
That's
it is.
right.
And so the athletic coach is telling you exactly what to do and giving you a play and expecting you to execute that. Um,
Mhm.
much differently than the way we think about coaching. So I'm glad you sort of called out
Mhm.
that difference. And I do think there is a place for an important place for the kind of coaching
Mhm.
you're describing, which is, listen, I know how to do this. I'm going to help you with your form. Is your shot going to look exactly like that person's shot? No, because
Right.
different strengths, different approaches, but there is a form that will fit you. And we're going to start with fundamentals that help you get to that form.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I love that you're saying that, because I've often thought that, but I
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
never sort of really articulated it until this moment. You're inspiring me, Joy.
Great.
So, but I think that's great. I think that's
Mhm.
great. And I think the way you're describing it in terms of not only coaching, but then leaving them really with the keys for accountability and
Mhm.
driving to outcomes with practice. It just, it, that, I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
get better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to problem solve. We're going to say, like, well, who do you have on your team? Tell me about your people, right? Let's talk about them. Let's look at their strengths. Let's dig in. Okay. Well, it sounds like this person should be tapped for this. It sounds like, can you have that conversation? Can we do that? But also, all right, so this didn't go that well for you. That's okay. Like, how are we going to do this better next time? Right. And here's some suggestions for you.
Oh, that's so good. And see, now you're just singing to my heart, because now you're talking about helping leaders understand the talent on their teams and how to leverage it,
Yeah.
maximize it for that person's experience and, let's say, actualized performance, but then
Yeah.
the good of the company and the good of
Mhm.
that leader. I mean, everybody wins when you
Yeah.
do that.
If everybody on a company is actually who's a manager is actually actively growing leaders, I mean, hallelujah, right? I mean, it's
Hallelujah, right? I mean, oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. Wow. I love your approach, and I do think it's really unique, much different than I've been in human resources for a long time. I've heard a lot of different training approaches, and I love what you're saying. What do you think sort of sits at the base of what managers need now?
hmm.
Where do you see the biggest, I'll say, the biggest need or the biggest deficit?
Hmm. I mean, there's so many statistics out there that managers don't have what they need. And what we see is companies promoting individual contributors who are fantastic at what they do. So you think logically, you're great at this. So why don't you take on more people who do what you do and
Mhm,
teach them how to do it? Um, that's one part of it. But if you are not understanding how to shape and grow people, right? How to tweak their behaviors and how to get them to stay away from the undesired behaviors, stop doing that, and to do these desired things. And if you're not telling them, let's see, your impact and your contributions to this company are valued and they're seen, and here's how I see you. And
mhm,
here's the perception of others that they have of you. And that could be positive or negative. We could be talking about other people have a negative perception about you. And here's that impact. We don't want that. So how do we move away from that? I just think it's feedback.
yeah,
And I think so many people are scared of delivering feedback.
right,
So I
right.
think that's big for managers. And when you make the leap from like a manager to a true leader,
Mhm,
the key is in growing managers underneath you. So are you proactively, again, shaping their behaviors? But also, I call myself a partner leader. And what that means is it's about observing those strengths and it's about saying to that person, I want to give you this thing. This is
mhm,
a project. You're going to take it on. Are you ready for it? Do you want it? Are you okay with it? I
mhm,
think it plays to your strengths. Do you? And
mhm,
if they agree, great. Okay. Now we're going to enter a zone of flow for that person. We're going to enter that zone where they're working on something that's challenging. And I, as their manager and leader, am going to partner with them and be there for them along the way. I'm not
Yeah.
micromanaging them. I'm not doing it for them. I'm checking in with them. How are you doing on it? What are your obstacles? What are the bottlenecks? And how can I help remove those? Because as a manager, it is your job to remove the obstacles and bottlenecks for your people. It's your job to make sure they stay motivated. And one of those keys is tapping into the intrinsic motivation. So I feel like if managers and leaders understand the basics of how people are motivated, you have an engaged workforce. When you have an engaged workforce, your profitability leaps up 23%.
Yep.
That's studies have shown.
Yep. Yep. For sure. For sure. I love what you said about the idea of tweaking behavior, because I remember I was on the bowling team, my college bowling team, and the bowling coach had me throw gutter balls. He was like, I want you to throw the
Mm.
ball in the gutter. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what? What? That's what I'm trying not to do.
Right.
So, but he had me just continuously throw the ball in the gutter because he was trying to tweak my behavior because he wanted me to throw it free. So
Mm.
if I hurdled being afraid of throwing it in the gutter, I would get free in terms of my release. And so that wouldn't no that idea of it going into the gutter would no longer hold me back. So I had to do
Right.
it
Ooh,
in order to then now tweak the behavior to actually throw the ball with a new level of freedom that was needed to actually kind of get to the outcome we were trying to
I
create.
love that.
That good, and I
Yes.
that's really understood it when you that made me think about, wow,
Hmm.
that's kind of what he was doing. He was tweaking
Yeah.
behavior.
And I feel like there's something there about fear. There's something there because we hold ourselves back when we don't go for things, right? And so he was trying to get you to go for it, but
Right,
experiencing the failure first. Go ahead and fail, fail, fail. I want you to feel that, and it's okay because you're
yep,
going to feel the fear and do it anyway. You're going to move through it. You're going to work through it. It's going to be there constantly.
right, right,
And I think as as a new business owner, I'm relearning this lesson
right,
about fear, feeling the fear and just do it anyway, because I am going to fail at things. I am going to try something and it's not going to work the way I envisioned. Right.
right,
But I really love that. And I think that that is one of those pieces that managers are, if you are not saying to your people, hey, I want you to take this on and it might be a little scary, but I'm going to be here for you, helping you tweak the behaviors. Like there you go. That's the role,
that is
right?
the role. That is the role. And I would love to see it. I've not seen it happen, but I would love to see it where a manager says to a new manager, I want you to take on leading these people. And I want you to understand that these people are valuable, they are precious, their contribution is infinite
Mm.
in terms of what they can actually create. And I'm trusting you with them,
Ooh,
and that is right, because that's
yes.
really what we're doing over and over and over again. Every time we put a manager in place, we're trusting that person to lead these people who we've so painstakingly been thoughtful to hire. And
Yes.
now you're out here, micromanaging and treating them bad and all of that. And I didn't turn them over to you for that, right? Why are you doing that? You're mistreating my people. I just
Yeah.
but just the idea of that the
Hmm.
people need to be valued for all that they're going to, we can't even measure what they're going to create, like you talked about
Yes.
engagement. And
Yeah.
so
It's the Pygmalion effect, right? But I also think too, you're flipping the script by saying that. I would love to see that more from everybody too, because instead, what we do is we say, you're going to take on these people, and your responsibility is X growth. Your responsibility is oversee this department, make sure it doesn't fail. Your responsibility is make sure these projects get done. And on the strategic plan, those dates are, you meet those deadlines and those goals.
right,
But we're forgetting to message about the infinite possibilities and skills and tap into your people. Why aren't we saying that?
why aren't we saying it? And we can get all the things you mentioned, like we're expecting to get all of that and more.
Yes,
Right? I mean, it's not like
absolutely.
we're going to, right, by valuing the people, it's not like we're talking about missing deadlines. We're not exchanging
No,
that. We're getting that and some. That's
that's
the,
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to get across is like everybody, the key is people.
Right. The
It's
key is
people.
people. It's people.
All everything else comes after that,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I love that. I love that, Joy. I could talk to you all day. Okay. All right. So now tell us this. What have you learned now? Because now you've been in business for how long?
About 6 months.
6 months. So it's early, early.
Mhm.
What have you learned so far that that is really sort of informing how you're moving forward?
Yeah. Okay, first of all, someone said as a fellow chief member of ours said, "Do it before you're ready."
Mm.
So just go for it because you are never going to personally feel you're ready and you've got this. And it's through that process of doing, and I think Shonda Rhimes said this, just do the work.
Right.
And so, that's one thing. The other thing that I learned is over 22 years, my system was wired in sort of a survival mechanism mode, that fight or flight response, right? It was
Mhm.
urgent. Everything was urgent and important, and I'm solving things, and but also feeding off of that. I'm getting positive reinforcement from solving this crisis and that issue and making sure this runs smoothly and doing, I'm I was operating in a different, like my brain was wired in a different way. And
Mhm.
so then when all of that stopped and got quiet, I've had to learn a new way to motivate myself to get things done. I mean, I was known as the person that just got things done,
Right.
right?
Right.
On a day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year basis. I'm your girl. I'm that my boss was the visionary. I was the integrator and the delivery person, right? So um, when it's just up to yourself,
Mhm.
how do you motivate yourself to go when there's no lion coming at me out of the den, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
none of everything's gone. It's quiet. So it's been a process of doing it because I want to do it,
Mhm.
doing it because it's creative in this moment, but listening to also myself saying, I'm not so much in the creative mode today. Today,
Mhm.
I'm in sort of the clean out the clutter and the admin mode so that
Mhm.
I can get ready for that. And then there's also basic tools like calendar blocking and things like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, which is good. But I like what you said, just in terms of sort of really paying attention to where you are in day to day, moment to moment. To say, look, I could be making sales calls today, but I'm not in that space. So let me honor the space that I'm in and do the things that I can do with the frame that I'm sitting in right now. I think that's so important. I think that's
Mhm.
so important because when you're the CEO, the CFO, the CMO, the CHRO, and all the other C's,
Yeah.
you know that you're wearing a lot of hats when you start
Mhm.
a company, and so you've got to sort of respond to exactly where you are and how you're doing it. So I think that's an important insight to really pay attention to where
Yeah.
you are on a particular day and do
Yeah.
what's going to serve you best.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So this is you're having an incredible experience. I love hearing about your journey through a startup and leaving it at the point in which you were ready and that you
Mhm.
left people ready. You talk about leaving an organization better than you found it. You started it, you built it, and then you left people ready and prepared to lead it forward, which is
Mhm.
extraordinary. It doesn't happen so often, I can tell you. And then now you're starting something new that is so needed and so important, I think, and that people want how to manage well. I think companies have sort of we've lost our secret sauce around delivering
Mhm.
that, and it's not something you can count on when you go to a company. You can count on having a manager. What you can't count on is whether or not your manager has been well trained. If your manager really knows how to manage and get the best of you, to appreciate your strengths, all the things you're talking about, you cannot count on as you move from company to company. So I think what you're doing is
Yeah.
is really important. So
Yeah.
you are absolutely blazing a trail. And I want to know what advice you have for anyone who's listening who might be considering starting a company and starting on a journey similar to yours, and I think important to call out that you had a 22 year career before starting this. But what do you what would you call out? What should we be thinking about or paying attention to if we want to join you in a journey like this?
Yeah. Listen to your intuition and think about what it is that you really love to do on a day-to-day basis, because I think that that is what's going to fuel your journey. And I think it's a little different than do what you love. I'm married to an artist, and so he's making a career out of that and other things. But it can get tiresome after a while for him to, like, the art then becomes more of a job, and so you
Mhm.
don't want that. Because so what do you do that brings you that flow and where you feel like you're making a contribution to something, where you
Mm,
feel like you're fitting into the world and you're making it a better place by what you do and what you bring? I think it's determining that first for yourself. Read a lot of books. I mean, I definitely spent a long time and listen to podcasts and things like that, like Blazing Your Path. I actually spent a lot of time when I left the company just immersing myself in learning, and I'm still doing it. You're
mhm.
going to be learning new things and trying new things, and I think that's part of it too. So
Yeah.
are you ready to learn and be inspired? And what I've found is I have a career coach, one of the ones that asks those leading questions and pulls the answer out of me, which is I'm not against, I'm all for. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. Um, and she said, "You're going to get your energy back," because I kind of felt like after at that 22-year mark, I was a little bit drained. I was like,
Mhm,
where am I? What's my identity? I'm feeling tired. Like I need a rest. She's like, "You're
mhm,
going to get your energy back." I'm like, "I am? Are you sure?"
mhm,
And I'm here to say yes. If you're feeling burnt out and like you need a change, then give yourself some grace.
mhm,
6 months later,
mhm.
I can guarantee you, you'll have your energy back.
Oh, that's so good. What great counsel, and I think one that we all sort of grapple with here and there is how to get to that thing that fills our hearts and makes us sing. So I thank you for that, and thank you for your great sharing through this discussion. I think that you are doing really important work, and I guess that's my view from my seat as a career human resources executive. I just think that this is you've tapped into the heart of what is needed today,
Thank
and
you.
sort of what, and in many respects, is kind of missing. So I'm hoping that, listen, that your phone blows up, and you can't get to all of them. That's what I'm hoping. And so with that in mind, how can folks follow you? How can they find you?
Sure. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'll put advice up there and tips and things. And also, I have a website. It's leadingwithjoy.com.
Ah, so good. That, like, again, your parents, they did just something. That's
Well, I'm taking the pun back. I always used to have the teachers that would say, "It was a joy having joy in class," and
uh,
so now I'm like owning that power
yes,
of the name.
yes, very powerful. And I'm sure each one of those teachers said it like they were the only ones who thought of it.
Oh yes, absolutely, every time.
Every time. So good. So good. Well, listen, it's been a joy, as I'm calling it. It's actually been a great pleasure. It's been a great pleasure having you and hearing you. So thank you for joining today on Blazing Your Path. And thank you, audience, for joining. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion. So definitely give us a like and let us know give us your reflections on all the things that we've talked about today. Joy, thank you again.
Thank you again too, Lisa.
We'll see you next time on Blazing Your Path. I'm Dr. Lisa Toppin.